Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the TLC Podcast. I'm your host, Eric, joined as always by my co host, Mike. Mike, how are you tonight?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. I'm running on fumes. I am on about 3.5-ish hours of sleep last night.
Okay.
I went to the Phillies doubleheader.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, buddy of mine had a few weeks ago gotten these tickets. His girlfriend had gotten him tickets to a previous game against Boston, and we sat like way high, and she felt terrible. Thought, "Oh, I gave you crappy seats for the other game." She's like, "I'll give you better seats this time."
Okay.
And this was like as a birthday present to him,
Very nice.
and he's like, "Oh, okay." And boy, did she deliver! We
That's
were front row of on the third baseline. Like I could sit there and have a conversation with the ball girl. If I
There
want.
you go.
Yeah.
You're living high on the hog. Nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so after about 7 hours of baseball yesterday,
Yeah.
yeah, and
It's long.
I love baseball, but you know, just like, and I kept comparing it to being at WrestleMania,
Hmm.
the 7 hours of action there and
Yeah. It
7 hours of,
It's a lot.
yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
By the end of the game, I was yelling at the umpire for just not calling everything a strike, yelling, "I've been here for 6.5 goddamn hours. Just call it a strike so I can go home."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where, like, sometimes, especially a doubleheader, if it's like the fifth inning of the second game, it might be time to say goodbye.
Yeah, it's funny. I had thought about that going in, but then
Mm.
somehow my stubbornness just kicked in, and I was just like, you know what?
Right.
We said we were coming to 18 innings of baseball today. We're staying for 18 innings.
Well, at least it wasn't like 20.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Had it gone into extra innings, I would have looked at my friend and said, "Look, man, you're on vacation. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going home now."
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So that was my night last night.
There you go.
Did get to watch all of SummerSlam. Got actually to watch all of Raw and NXT.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks to watching stuff on being antisocial on my breaks at work and watching stuff on my phone.
There you go.
Yeah. So overall grades for SummerSlam.
Overall, maybe a C. Just an average show.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about it in the before we came on. I
Yeah.
said if that had been a backlash, it'd have been good.
Yeah.
But it was SummerSlam. It's supposed to be the second biggest show of the year.
Yeah, you got to pull some stops out. I mean,
Yeah.
really, the only surprise, but we both called it, was Io Sky cashing in.
Right. Like, how can
Yeah.
it be a surprise if we both called it?
Right. So it's just kind of like, yeah, what are they going to do now?
Now, I consider us both smart marks. Yeah,
Okay.
and shout out to the Facebook group. Hopefully, people are joining and watching us there on Smarking Out. But I still like I just said. I think if we predict it, it can't be a surprise.
No. No. And it was just one of those. We kind of knew Jimmy was going to turn on Jay. We talked about that.
Yep.
And how did Roman win? Oh, Jimmy comes back and calls Jay the title. Like, am I seeing the Payback main event? Payback. Jimmy versus Jay.
I mean, it writes itself.
It writes itself. Like, I guess that's why they were
Yeah.
using Payback after SummerSlam. Like, now it's time to get some payback.
Well, it makes sense, and especially if you're trying to convince, or if you're trying to use the names of pay-per-views as a play on what's going on in storylines. Like, it would make sense to always have WrestleMania, and right after that, you get Backlash.
Right.
And then right after SummerSlam, which is supposed to be the second biggest show of the year, you have Payback. Payback for the turns at SummerSlam.
Right. So I don't know. It just was lackluster.
Yes.
It was like, okay, so this is your second biggest show. You're force feeding Roman again. I mean, I think the one big thing that was kind of off script too was Brock at the end of the match shaking.
Yeah, you could definitely tell Cody didn't know what to expect there.
Right.
Like, I don't think that was Cody truly thinking. Like, I don't think this was something they talked about
No.
behind the scenes. I think this was just something Brock was feeling it in the moment and
Right.
said, "Hey, let me do something I've never done before. If
And
they
that was
want me to make this guy, let me really make him."
yeah. And I think that was a good way to kind of shoot Cody into the next story, which who knows what that's going to be.
Well, and it certainly seemed on Monday Night Raw that they were trying to set up at least fans to believe, as I had hinted at, maybe we could see Cody and Seth for the world title at, say, Payback,
Right.
with the idea being, okay, we don't want Cody to win the title because the first time I want him to win the titles at WrestleMania,
Right.
and I want it to be the WWE Championship against Roman.
Exactly.
And so, okay, we could put him in that match. What do we do then?
Right.
Well, we could have Damian Priest cash in because we don't want Cody to look weak by losing to Seth, even though Cody beat Seth 3 times last year and is now world champion. Like, clearly, wins and losses don't matter.
Not really. That's what cracks me up, especially when AEW flashes on their graphics like AEW record. Like,
Well, clearly they're trying to be the antithesis of WWE. They're trying to say wins and losses do matter.
But do they really when it's just like when a title shot comes, it's like, oh, just come back from a long absence and then you get a title shot, Adam Cole, or something like that. It's like, do they really matter?
And speaking of which, I'm glad you brought that up. AEW finally seems to have their main event for All In set. It's Adam Cole challenging MJF for the AEW Championship.
Yes.
I don't quite know how to take the betweener role of MJF. Like, he still, like, man, he cut a great promo. And I know this isn't the first time he hinted this, which is why I believe it was true that people at his school threw quarters at him and said, "Pick it up, Jew boy."
Right.
I can believe it that happened.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we were both kids. Like, as terrible as it is to say, like, we would have known kids that would have done that.
Yes. Yeah. And that happens a lot in middle school and high school, and my wife's a middle school teacher, so I'm well aware of all the bullying and picking on that happens, and it's bad. So I can believe someone doing that to MJF.
And I thought, man, like, either they're doing a really big swerve job, which I love the fans chanting read the contract to Adam Cole.
Yeah.
Because I was waiting for him to say, "Oh yeah, but in that, yeah, you get a championship match if you jump through these hoops."
Exactly. And you know what? It could be a double turn.
Yeah.
Because you could have Cole, Roddy Strong, and Kyle O'Reilly coming back. If Kyle O'Reilly comes back,
Yeah.
you can make them your major heel faction. Because you really don't have that now.
No, you really don't. Even the Blackpool Combat Club, like, I feel like they're going to start getting more positive reactions, especially, like, you just had 2 of the heels turn on them during Blood and Guts.
Exactly.
And that, to me, would suggest, okay, we're going to get a babyface run out of them. We're going to just switch them heel so they can feud with the Elite.
Yeah. So it's kind of like they need that heel faction, and I think the House of Black could be it, but they're pretty much all on Collision.
And am I again the only one that absolutely hates the idea that you're just taking a bunch of guys and saying you're Collision guys, and so now the tag team titles only get defended on Collision now?
It seems that way because MJF and Adam Cole went to Collision to challenge.
Yeah.
And then I believe didn't the Big Bill and Brian Cage?
Right. And now I haven't watched Collision yet because, again, like I said, I was away all weekend. I didn't get to watch Collision.
Yeah, I didn't.
Actually, I didn't watch SmackDown either.
Right.
I read the results of SmackDown just figuring it's the go-home episode. Is there anything that's going to surprise me? And there wasn't.
There wasn't. No, it was just kind of like, here we go. Let's make this into SmackDown time.
Yeah. And now we're going to get the what is it? The U.S. title match, Austin Theory versus
Escobar.
Escobar, yeah, for the U.S. title. And like, I'm excited for that match. I think it's going to be a good match.
But why not on the pay-per-view?
Yeah, why was it not a pay-per-view match?
I think because they're trying to limit the pay-per-view matches because
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 matches. So, and I think we're going to see a lot of battle royals being used at the pay-per-views, the big four,
Yeah.
to get people on the card.
I mean, I get it. I would have rather done without the battle royal and maybe had either the U.S. title match or
What I would have rather had was have LA Knight win that United States Invitational and have him challenge Austin Theory at SummerSlam and then get the LA Knight train rolling.
Well, it seems like they're moving LA Knight to Monday Night Raw, or at least temporarily, or just they're going to let him bounce back and forth because I guess if you win a battle royal, you get to do that now.
I guess. Well, I guess they want to have the battle of the loudmouths.
Sure, and to me, this is just another example of, as much as I don't like the draft, it gives them an excuse to say, well, this guy only wrestles once a week. You could still have guys only wrestle once a week. You don't have to say, oh, they're exclusively to Raw or exclusively to SmackDown. It could be where The Miz wrestles 3 straight weeks, just Monday Night Raw, and then, okay, 3 weeks in a row now, you're going to be coming to SmackDown and working all 3 SmackDowns, but you're not going to do Raw those weeks.
Right.
Like, you could do it in an unofficial way, which has always been my stance on the whole.
Like, you gotta blur the roster up sometimes, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, give us something new. Which I'm okay if you have a brand split. But then if you like transition LA Knight to Raw for a feud and then take him back to SmackDown, just to try to give him a new feud. Like LA Knight against The Miz should be a good feud. We should get that till Payback, and then hopefully they decide what they want to do next with them.
Right, and I wouldn't even hate the idea of him coming out and cutting like a promo, even this Friday on SmackDown. LA Knight coming out and saying, oh, I had this great opportunity. They asked me to come do a photo shoot on Raw. And, of course, I had to catch The Miz running his mouth, so I had to go set him straight. That would explain, okay, this is why he was there. They asked him to do this photo shoot. As the winner of the Battle Royal.
Yeah.
And then, okay, well, that's why he came out, just because The Miz and picked a fight with him.
Yeah, and that would make sense.
Yeah. And to me, that would be sticking with the, yes, I've been a SmackDown guy. I'm always a SmackDown guy. This is why I was at Raw. This is why I interacted in the ring.
Right. And I think that would work.
Mm-hmm. And then you could just set it up and just have the two like verbally spar with each other.
Right.
Miz on Raw and Knight on SmackDown, and then just say, okay, we're going to meet at Payback.
Right. And then just do the one big match.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay to have a feud based on yapping with those two.
Oh, yeah. And to me, that plays into both of their strengths.
Interaction.
Yeah.
I think they could just yap at each other for 4 weeks and then boom, have a match.
Yeah, like I said, it plays to their strengths. Both of them are great talkers, great hype guys.
Yes.
I think that it would be very smart. Don't have the physicality until we have the match at Payback.
Exactly. Yeah. Or maybe like the Miz tried to get one up on LA Knight. Maybe one time during Miz TV, LA Knight gets Payback, and then.
Yeah, I could see that too.
Right. Maybe doing that a couple times. And then maybe on a SmackDown have LA Knight cutting a promo and the Miz comes through the fans just to catch people off guard.
Right. Or like one of my favorite tricks that they like to do, and they haven't done it in a long time, is you could have the Miz dress up in disguise as the cameraman or something. Or LA Knight as and just all of a sudden you see him Miz sitting there talking, and maybe the cameraman does something goofy, and Miz is yelling at the cameraman, and it's just like, "What the hell's wrong with you, you idiot?" Yada yada. Turns around, looks at the hard camera, and you see LA Knight take the camera off, take the hat off, and and it shows LA Knight, and then nails him with the camera.
Or they could just have him come out in a black hoodie and a bandana. I mean, that always works.
Gosh, because I had no idea who that could be.
I had no idea. That was just shocking.
Yes. Anything can happen in WWE.
It's just like, I really think for Roman Reigns match, I think they really just have it set, the script set on a laptop. Yeah. And they just copy and paste for the next pay-per-view and just switch out who the opponent's name is.
I mean, it kind of seems that way.
It really seems that way. It's like, okay, who's going to interfere now? And how's Roman going to keep the title? And how are we going to have this boring reign just continue and continue and continue?
I feel like, gosh, I guess during the Brock Lesnar feud, it was, okay, the whole bloodline will come out, interfere.
Exactly.
And then it goes into Clash at the Castle with Solo.
And then Solo had to come out. And
yeah.
Every match, it's the same thing.
And then the Kevin Owens stuff at the Royal Rumble. And,
yeah.
And it's funny, I didn't even realize it until they mentioned it on the card at SummerSlam, that was Roman's first match, one-on-one, since WrestleMania.
Yeah.
That was 4 months ago.
And he's your champion?
To me, it's like you're just crossing off days now.
That's all they're doing. That's all they're doing. And as far as I'm concerned, this title reign needs a gigantic big asterisk next to it because he hasn't defended the title much. Same with MJF. It's like they have these champions who aren't defending the title. It's getting old. It's getting boring. It's like, what else could they do?
That was the big reason why I hated Brock Lesnar, is because Brock Lesnar became champion. And I'll say at least Roman shows up and talks some. But Brock Lesnar, when he won the title originally from Cena, I remember I thought, I'm like, okay, if he's going to have a title reign, then I need him to show up every week and be willing to work.
Nope.
And no, we still got the part-time Brock Lesnar schedule. And, he showed up for the next pay-per-view. And, there's this big deal made about, oh, wow, he's working Night of Champions? This is amazing.
Right.
And I thought, okay, well, what's he going to do at Hell in a Cell? Well, he's not at Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
All right, fine. So he skips one. No big deal. Survivor Series. Wasn't at Survivor Series.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just...
Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, no, he'll be at the Royal Rumble. And it's like, Okay, but John Cena won the right to challenge for Brock Lesnar's title at Hell in a Cell in October and didn't even get a chance to have that match
Right.
until January.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. I mean, that's the one thing, like looking back, it's the SummerSlam card.
Mm-hmm.
You have Roman on it. You have Brock on it. You
Yeah.
have Logan Paul on it. It's like, do you really need all the part timers?
Well, and like, look, I get it. Your part timers are the one like they come back for the big shows. Like, I understand that, but like the Logan Paul Ricochet match was fantastic. I really enjoyed that match,
Right.
and I thought it was great theater and great like. And when Logan Paul at the end tries to get Ricochet's girlfriend to say who won the match a
Right.
second time, and she completely, doesn't do it. I thought, I'm like, oh, come on, you got to buy into it a little. Like,
A little
get
bit,
the
yeah.
camera on her. Like,
Yeah.
this is good improv work by Logan Paul. That's great ring psychology.
It is. It is.
Yeah, and that was great heel work. And me being a true fan of the heels, I really dug that.
Right. And of course, they use the cheat to win type thing, but that worked.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, God, I really enjoyed that match too.
Yeah.
That match, Drew Gunther was good, not great.
Yeah. Especially for those two.
Yeah.
It's like, when you two go out there, you're supposed to put on a match we don't forget about.
Right. And maybe our expectations were just, so high from Gunther and Sheamus at Clash in the Castle.
And then the WrestleMania 3-way.
Yeah, the WrestleMania 3-way. And we just expected this like life-changing. They were going to come out there and somehow during the course of a wrestling match cure cancer.
Yeah.
And since they didn't do that, we're disappointed.
Yeah.
But I felt the same way as you. I felt like, this match is kind of underwhelming for the two of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it's because everyone put too much stress. It's like maybe we put too much thought. Like, this should have been in our top 100 list.
Yeah, I'll tell you. When I heard that was going to be the match, I thought, I'm like, should I just preemptively say, "Hey, this is my top 100 list"?
Right.
Speaking of which, I'm glad you mentioned that because I want to transition into what you think our next top list should be. And it doesn't have to be 100. It can be 50. It can be 25. There are a few ideas that jump out at me.
Okay.
One, the top rivalries.
Okay.
And we'll probably do all of these, but I just am curious as to what you're thinking of for next.
Okay.
The second one, top superstars. The third, top tag teams.
Yeah, they were the three I had in
My fourth was top factions, but I feel like that's something that's definitely something we can get to, but I feel like that's a later on down the road.
Yeah, and that honestly would have to be like a short one, like a top 25.
Yeah.
I think because when you think about
I agree with that. Yeah.
Factions, it would be hard. So rivalries, superstars, or tag teams. Either one I'm really interested in doing. Superstars, I think, might be a little bit too predictable for us.
Yeah, I feel like most people would probably be able to guess our like top 10 to 20.
Yeah.
And if we did 50, I feel like that would be good. But like again, once we got to the top 20, I feel like anybody who's watched our shows could just sit there and be like, okay, these guys, Eric's top 10 are these guys, and Mike's top 10 are these guys.
Yeah. Let's see here. Is there a way to do a color wheel that we?
Oh, there has to be. Yeah, I know. Some guys on some of the other shows have done this, where they just spin the wheel and it just eliminates one.
Right. Let me see here. Let's see here. Spinning color wheel. Okay, here we go. All right.
Now, do you know how to share your screen on this one, or do you get that option?
I am actually doing this on my phone just to see if I can find it.
Okay.
Random color wheel picker. Click to. All right. Here's the problem. Enter. Well, you know what? Why don't we just do it? Red, yellow, and blue. Let's see if I can do a 3. And let me just reset wheel. No, that's not working. Maybe I'll just do it the old-fashioned way. So is Rivalries 1, Superstars 2, Tag Teams 3?
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on one moment. Sean, pick a number 1, 2, or 3.
2, 1.
Sean said 2.
All right, so what was 2?
Superstars.
All right, that's our list. Cool.
All right. We were trying to do the next list. There's going to be Rivalries, Superstars, or Tag Teams.
That works for me.
Rivalries would have been the best.
Oh, he's saying Rivalries would have been the best.
All right, well, we can do that now.
All right, then we'll do Rivalries.
All right. Yeah, we'll do Rivalries, then maybe – you know what? Let's do Rivalries, then Tag Teams, then Superstars.
Okay, let's do it that way.
All right.
All right.
Well, we'll start that in the next few weeks.
How many
Yeah.
is the question.
So I figure we did 100 matches. Now I know like matches consist of more than one person.
Right.
I'm thinking since its rivalries are basically between two, I think there
Right.
will be one that is a 3-way. But so let's do 50.
50 sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be a little bit easier than the 100.
Yes.
Yes. So let's see here. This will be interesting.
I wanted to because I have the DVD of the top rivalries of all time. I forget
Right.
what their list was, like 25 or something.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna just do a carbon copy of their list,
No.
but I do like their list generally speaking.
Yeah. So
I agreed with the top couple.
yeah. And then then we have other rivalries since then. Like
Yes.
one of them that really I enjoyed since that DVD was the Usos New Day.
Yes, I really enjoyed that rivalry.
And having the New Day finally come back was great to see on Raw.
Yeah, I was really excited to see New Day. I knew that they hadn't been out in a while, and I kept thinking, man, when are we going to see the New Day again?
Exactly.
And when they showed up, I was like, I wasn't expecting them.
No, but it really added an extra feature.
Now, did you hear Big E's been trying to get himself cleared? So far, doctors are not willing to clear him.
Yeah.
Even though he's in no pain, like he's moving around fine, but they don't know how his neck's going to hold up to the punishment of being in the ring.
Exactly.
So that would be a shame. I hope that he can get himself through all the hurdles and eventually get back.
Yeah.
And maybe pull an edge and come back in a few years. Even if it takes a few years, whatever it takes.
Exactly. Just to get him back in would be great.
Yeah. And honestly, I would be okay with, eventually, again, clears all the hurdles, even if he just comes back for one match. Just so he can end his career on his terms.
Exactly. And you know what? Even if they did a 6-man.
Yeah.
And
in fact, I think that'd be the perfect way to do it.
I think it would be just to kind of have him give his swan song. And this way they can even make it where Woods and Kofi take all the bumps.
Oh yeah.
Make him in for the hot tag. He gets the 1, 2, 3. They put him on on their shoulders and play the Francesca 88, whatever,
Yeah.
and we have our Big E moment.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. I think he would deserve it. I know when I saw the injury happen, when I saw it happen live, I thought, "Oh my God, that is
Not good.
he'll be lucky to ever walk again."
Yeah.
And thankfully, he's able to move around and be him
Be
for the
him.
most part. Yeah. I mean, open a wrestling school, teach kids how to wrestle,
Yeah.
be a commentator. I think he'd be awesome as
I
a
think
color
he'd be
commentator.
fantastic, especially the way they're switching up the commentary teams again.
Yeah.
You could have a 3-man booth on Raw.
Yeah, and look, I'd be okay with starting Big E out as commentary on NXT. And can we, for the love of God, I love Booker T, the performer. I
Right.
cannot stand him as a broadcaster.
Right.
I tried. He's. I don't understand half of what he's saying.
I know. Sometimes it's very confusing.
And I don't know if you noticed, or if you watched last night's NXT,
Not all of it yet.
but why can't I never remember the announcer there? The play-by-play guy.
Vic Joseph.
Yeah, Vic Joseph. Basically calls him out a couple times, just being like, "What are you talking about?"
Oh boy.
And I mean, that had to be killing because he doesn't want to throw his guy under the bus, but
Right. Yeah.
they're just gonna be like, "But what are you trying to say? What is it you think you're saying?" Because it's
Right.
not coming across to the audience.
Yeah, because really, Book didn't come back till Pat McAfee left. And I thought McAfee was going to come back, but he signed that big contract with ESPN, I think.
Right. And I think basically he was asked, "Okay, what do you really want to do? Do you want to be a WWE commentator or do you want to do football?"
Right.
And I'm sure to McAfee, as much as he enjoyed wrestling, look, he played football. These opportunities to do game day and stuff like that aren't going to come along every day.
And the thing is, it's a lot easier of a schedule
Mm-hmm.
than every week having to be somewhere else.
Right. And even though he's only going in for TV, he's
Right.
got to go to production meetings. He's got to be, and I mean, once or twice a year, they're saying, "Hey, put on the boots and get in there and wrestle."
Right. And I mean, he did do his WrestleMania match.
Yeah, he got to live out his dream. He got to have his match against Austin Theory. He got to get stunned by Stone Cold.
Right. Yeah. So it's just kind of like, okay, now what's really next for him?
Yeah, I'm sure that definitely played a part in it, and thinking, well, okay, where do I go from here?
Right.
And again, I'm sure at the Royal Rumble it was, "Hey, let me have my swan song in broadcasting with WWE," and I'm sure ESPN acquiesced pretty easily. Just said, "Okay, go, you're one more time, go do your date, and then come back."
Exactly. And I think it was nice. It was a big surprise.
Yeah.
And I thought the Rumble went through fine.
Yeah, and look, Pat loved his job as a WWE broadcaster. You could just tell. Everything he did, he loved it, and
Right.
From the dancing to the Shinsuke Nakamura music.
That was the best, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I think we kind of miss that now because I like Barrett a lot. I think Barrett and Cole should be your flagship duo at this point. And putting them on Raw, I don't know, because do you want Raw to be your flagship or SmackDown? Because SmackDown's on Fox.
I'll always see Monday Night Raw as the flagship because it was the first one.
Because we're old fans.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's exactly, I guess, they were kind of thinking. And
when in doubt, appeal to your base.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And everyone's used to Monday Night Raw. I mean, it's been on for 30 years. So
yeah.
So yeah, I can understand that.
Was I the only one surprised? Okay, I guess they did do a big deal for Raw 30. It was in Philly, and
Yeah, they did right before the Rumble.
right.
Yeah, and then it was kind of like SmackDown's always been the number 2, but I kind of like how they're moving Kevin Patrick and Graves there to learn under Michael Cole and keeping Michael Cole there.
Yeah.
Because as far as I'm concerned, I know people either love or hate him, but he's such an institution at this point.
Yeah, and he's really he's been so good. Like,
Right.
and it's such a shame because I don't feel like WWE has a great, as another great play-by-play guy.
They don't.
I mean, Kevin Patrick, God bless him, he's been thrown into that role just because they needed somebody.
Right. And I think now it's time to actually sit there and learn, sit under the old oak tree adage and learn and soak up the knowledge. And now we'll see maybe in a year or two how Kevin Patrick can do on his own as a commentator.
Yeah, and I hope it works out for him. And WWE really needs it too because, there's no real, where do you go and get another play-by-play announcer for WWE?
It really has been tough because they've tried different people.
Yeah, the guy from the USC, what's his name? The old, the guy who got bullied by JBL.
Mauro Ranallo.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to be it, but
I would have loved it if they brought him back.
Right. But I think with the whole JBL thing and all, then they brought in the one guy from ESPN. They brought in the one guy from UFC.
Yeah.
And it was just like neither one of them really stuck around for a while. So, and then they just kind of had to throw Kevin Patrick in there.
Yeah, it's funny. In fact, before Ring of Honor was purchased by AEW by Tony Khan, I really thought, man, I wonder if WWE would go in and try and get Ian Riccaboni.
I thought about that, but he's tied up.
Yep.
Yeah, because
and of course Kevin Kelly doesn't seem like he'd be interested in going back to WWE.
No, he's got a good gig with New Japan.
Yeah.
Yes.
And of course, I like what he does at AXW, too.
Correct. And then speaking of that, I got to check here because I think we have our quarterfinals for the G1 set.
Oh, okay.
Today was the last day of the block schedule. So let's see here. Let's see. Just want to check Block D because that was the last. And let's see here. It is a bit of a. Let me see here. Is it under? I thought it was under results. I'm just trying to figure out. Because. All right, so Naito, and it looks like Zack Sabre advanced from Block D.
Okay.
So the 4 quarterfinals are Sonata, who won every match in Block A. They're world champ. That makes sense. Make them look strong against Evil. And then we have Okada versus Zack Sabre Jr., and then it's David Finlay versus Will Ospreay and Hikuleo versus Naito.
Okay.
So,
having not watched any of it, my plan is, I guess, at some point if I can figure out how to get New Japan World to play on my Roku and how to get the app on there.
right.
I want to sit down and watch the whole G1 in its entirety. It may be something that I have to do on YouTube.
That's an effort.
Yeah.
I did it a couple years ago,
Yeah.
and it's an effort. I will
Well, because every match is like 30, 40 minutes to an hour.
not in the block schedules.
Okay.
Yeah, they have some 10-minute, 8-minute matches thrown in here and there, but yeah, it is an effort to do.
Well, I feel like, and the shame of it is the effort is finding the matches. Like,
Yeah, it is. It really is. It is tough.
you would think, I would argue that New Japan could be seen as the third biggest company in the industry.
I would say so at this point.
Because I would say they've got to be bigger than Impact right now. And Ring of Honor, do you consider them another company? They're owned by the same guy who owns AEW.
No,
Yeah, they're a brand of AEW.
they're a brand. And see, that's what really kind of ticked me off. But I understand why they did it.
Mhm.
Was to do Collision, AEW Collision, because I would have liked to have had AEW and Ring of Honor, like two separate brands on TV.
Yes, that to me it was like, why did you need to call it Collision and have like just Superstars for Collision? If you really want two brands, you already have them,
But
AEW and Ring of Honor.
But I think they also want to shop the rights out to Ring of Honor because AEW is exclusive Time Warner. That's why they got rid of Dark and Dark Elevation.
Okay.
That was part of the deal when they brought Collision in. AEW is exclusively part of the Time Warner family now. So they got rid of their YouTube shows where I think with Ring of Honor, they want to stream it out. And they might want to be able in the future to say, hey, we got this other brand in case, let's say, USA loses WWE at the TV rights.
Mm-hmm.
That's always a possibility.
And it's funny because I think about it, like, where would WWE go if not if they're not on the NBC,
Universe.
USA
Right.
Universe. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm wondering, I think their rights are coming up soon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and that's a big negotiating point what channel they would end up on.
Right. Because especially them being on Friday nights,
Yeah.
they could pretty much go anywhere with SmackDown.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't surprise me, considering if Comcast goes hard to get SmackDown on NBC. Because what does NBC show on a Friday night?
Couldn't tell you.
Neither could I.
It's funny. I don't really generally watch much regular TV.
No.
There's a few shows that like I'll watch, but I'll watch them on Hulu, like
Right.
sports. So I have no earthly idea when half the shows that are all regular TV shows when they air.
Yeah, that's how. And Friday nights always, in our house, it's very much Friday night. If we're home, we watch SmackDown.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, even three of us will watch it. Nicole, she'll play games or something or do whatever. Right. Even Denise will sit down and watch SmackDown.
Yeah, Jody will sometimes watch a little bit of it with me. Sometimes we'll have, during the summer, we'll watch the Phillies a lot.
Yeah.
But, yeah, for the most part, it's either Phillies or it's SmackDown on Friday nights.
Exactly. And see, that's where Phillies play Fridays, but I'm not a huge baseball fan.
Sure.
The one sport I do watch a lot of is hockey, and Flyers rarely play on Friday.
Yeah, they play a lot more Mondays than Fridays.
They, for years and years and years and years and years and years, because my dad was going to games in 67, the first year, they play a lot of Thursday night games.
Yeah.
When you see their schedule, the Flyers play a ton of Thursday games, especially home games.
It's funny because I was actually talking to my buddy yesterday. Like, the team that I'm like obviously most excited about the Eagles. For obvious reasons.
Right. You could just look behind your shoulder and see the black.
Yeah. I kind of like them a little bit.
Just
Um,
a smidge.
and oh man, if you see me on like the average day, I look like the Eagles Pro Shop threw up on me.
I could imagine that.
Yeah. If I showed you my closet in my man cave and all the jerseys that I have in there,
I might
yeah,
have to call an intervention because I've seen Ryan's post on Facebook before.
mine's aren't up to Ryan's level.
I'm saying
Judgement.
might have to call an intervention for
Yeah.
you and your Eagles jerseys.
Oh yeah, me and it like we used to have this thing like so this funny thing happened with me and one of my coworkers. I was wearing I think the whole week I'd worn Eagle stuff, like without even planning it. And like on Thursday or Friday, she said to me, she goes, "What do you think would be easier? Going a week without wearing any Eagle stuff or going an entire month of wearing nothing but Eagle stuff?" And I'm just like, oh, the easier thing would be going the month with wearing Eagle stuff. I'm like, I don't know that I have enough clothes to go a week without wearing anything Eagles.
Uh, see, that's where I would love to put a bet, but I don't have that same zip anymore.
Yeah.
It would be like, and I've done this with people, like tried to do this
hmm
with people, is you have to wear the team that you despise the most, like make you wear a cowboy shirt one day. That would be fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's been like me and my brother in law. We always have the bet with each other that if, because he's a Cowboy fan. And so it's always if the Eagles win, he has to wear an Eagles shirt. And if the Cowboys win, I have to wear a Cowboy shirt. And thankfully, anytime we've gotten together and made that bet, the Eagles have won.
Well, that's good.
So he's decided that he doesn't want to make those bets with me anymore.
Oh, well, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thankfully, since then, the Cowboys have won a number of the games that we've been together. And so I'm just like, well, you would have had your chance.
You got a chance.
But anyway.
We digress into other topics.
Oh, yeah. This is one of the funnest things. And Ryan and I do this on our show all the time. We like to see how far down the rabbit hole we can go.
It can go pretty deep.
Yeah. And we can, like, he and I can spiral off. Like, we'll start off talking about, like, the Eagles schedule. And somehow we'll be talking about, like, snowstorms in the 90s, like, within 3 sentences.
Right. It happens.
Yeah. But I want to talk about WrestleMania coming to Philadelphia. Hopefully, it will be a lot more exciting and a lot more fanfare than SummerSlam had in Detroit. Because, man, it's such a shame. Like, they went to Ford Field and put nearly 60,000 people in there for a glorified backlash.
Exactly.
I mean, am I the only one seeing, like, the business is booming right now? Like, there is a groundswell of people who want to be blown away by a card.
Hmm.
And, like, AEW finally announces their main event for All In, Adam Cole versus MJF. And, I mean, it was something we predicted a while ago and then started to wonder, is that really what they were going to do? And I'm glad they kind of teased it, but then still announced it with enough time to put a lot of build around it.
Exactly. Because it's the only match officially announced.
Right. Like, and I feel like now what's going to end up happening is tonight's going to be all about hyping that match.
Right.
And then when we get to next week, it's going to be like, okay, well, like now we've got, 2 weeks before All In. Are we just going to announce all the matches for All In the next week? Or is it going to be 2 weeks of we'll have 3 matches added this week and 4 added next week, and then
They are really good at doing that, though.
they are, but then I don't really. I feel like storylines are pushed,
right,
and then So one of the things I feel like they really have drugged their feet on is this Ethan Page turning babyface and really buying into being part of Matt Hardy's group.
Right. They're really.
And it's like occasionally you'll see, oh wow, okay, he's into this idea, and then it's like, and then 3 weeks of nothing, and then Ethan Page is into this idea again. And it's like I have to be reminded that Ethan Page is even like voluntarily now a part of that group.
Their storytelling can just get so out of whack from time to time.
Yeah, even when they turned the Blackpool Combat Club heel, like I had to sit there and like, wait, why are they heels? Like, why are they doing bad guy stuff?
Right.
Because they hadn't done anything to make them heels.
Right. Their storylines get a bit out of control.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and that's the one thing. Now you have the main event set, and you have a pay-per-view exactly a week later with one match announced as well.
Right. Well, what's the one match announced for All Out?
Luchasaurus against Darby Allin for the TNT title.
Oh, okay.
Because they did that because they had the touring set up for Blood and Guts.
Oh yeah, for Blood and Guts. Yeah.
Friday they do the two-ring battle royal, the Rampage Royal, and the winner, it was announced, gets a shot at All Out at the TNT title. Darby won, so it's going to be Darby against Luchasaurus.
I mean, to me, what would make sense is you have MJF defending the AEW Championship against Adam Cole at All In. CM Punk could defend the real World Championship and All Out in Chicago.
But I think Samoa Joe challenged Punk to a match. I don't know if it was for All In or All Out. Let me see here as we're talking, because it happened on Collision.
Okay, yeah.
And you both said we haven't watched it yet, so let's see here. Yeah, he challenges CM Punk, but to where? Oh, All In. So, are you really going to run? Are you going to run an MJF, Adam Cole, CM Punk, Samoa Joe match? Boom, boom. Not unless do they say, okay, Punk, you have the real World Championship with that big giant X on it. Maybe are they going to do a 4-man tournament, have the two winners face each other at All Out for the undisputed AEW Championship?
I would love to see whoever, like, say you close the show with Adam Cole and MJF, and earlier in the show you have Punk, Samoa Joe, and say Punk retains, because that's my thought process. Punk retains there, and whoever the champ is, at the end of it, you hear CM Punk's Cult of Personality play. He comes out, challenges them to a unification match the next week at All Out.
Right.
I mean, again, it would be forcing the main event storyline to be just done a week out, and I hate that. Like, I hated it when WWE did it, when they had Payback a week after SummerSlam, and Roman ended up winning his championship that night.
Mm-hmm.
That he still hasn't lost. At this point, what's even the point anymore of this title reign? Because now it's like, okay, we're just continuing it because we have to until we get to WrestleMania, even though you had a perfectly good chance to end the title reign at this past WrestleMania. I'm gonna get myself upset again
because they have to tell the story. I think that's how they feel. Like, Cody hasn't had much adversity since he came back.
Okay. All right, where was the adversity that Hulk Hogan faced before he won the world title for the first time?
That was, hey, we're going to have a national expansion and we're going to screw every other territory there is.
Well, yeah.
Let's get the most charismatic person to take that role. Now, here's a question that
Yeah.
I've heard posed before since you mentioned Hogan winning the title in 84.
Yeah.
If Vince McMahon cannot get Hogan to sign in 83 to come to WWF, who takes his spot for the national expansion as the champion?
Ooh.
That's a tough question.
I mean, was Superstar too old then? I feel like he was, so he wouldn't have been able to.
Oh, by that point he was doing
He was doing commentary then.
No, he was having an identity crisis. He shaved his head, had the kung fu pants on, and
Oh,
was
right.
doing the ninja gimmick.
Oh.
This is a tough one.
Because, I mean, you're not letting Backlund try to keep the belt thing become, like, because he's not that charismatic.
Right. I've heard 3 names in different conversations.
Okay.
Do you just put the number 2 guy at that time? And it would fit Sergeant Slaughter.
Okay.
Because he was kind of like the number 2 face at that time.
Yeah, and he was the All-American guy. Like, he was a freaking G.I. Joe.
Right. He was All-American. I've heard people mention the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, instead of going from Florida to Crockett, go Florida to New York. And Vince would have to rethink his whole idea of what a superstar should look like at that point then.
Yeah, and to me, like, I know Dusty's whole thing is he's a common man, but he doesn't look like he doesn't look like a WWE superstar, but to me he passes that airport test. You can see him and just know he's somebody.
Exactly. And then the other name I've heard people mention that could have worked would have been, because Vince was very high and actually showed him on All American Wrestling, was Kerry Von Erich.
That's one I would have been interested in.
Because they could have worked a deal with Fritz. Fritz could have went with them. And that would have been interesting.
Boy, that is quite the what if. If you don't get Hogan, then who takes that role?
Isn't that quite a question for a wrestling fan? From our
wow. But anyway, like my whole thing about Cody has to face this, and I know this was probably Cody's idea, and especially having now watched the documentary and understanding a lot, like, because to me, I really thought, man, Cody has to feel like he wanted to win. He wanted to win at this past WrestleMania. He wanted to have his moment of looking up to the heavens, and and hearing, like, there was one little, it was almost like a throwaway line when they talk about when people say to him, "Oh, your dad's with you," and he goes, "No, he's not." Like that, I get your gesture and I appreciate it.
Right.
And when he talked about having his own doubts about what happens when we die,
Right.
I thought, I'm like, oh, you know what? That makes sense now. Now I get why he would be behind. If I'm really going to honor him, I'm not going to have this great emotional moment. I'm going to write the same story he would have written. And so that's hence the chase.
And that's the big.
That's that made sense to me.
Right. And that's the thing where it is, to me, being able to watch the chase as a child and then as an adult watch the son's chase. I think when we finally get that moment, it's going to sink in for a lot of people.
Yeah, oh yeah, and I think I'll be one of them. And you'll probably be sitting about a foot or so away from me when that happens, because I feel like that's happening at WrestleMania.
I really think it will be.
And you know what? I know we're a long way out right now, but I will ask you, and I'm going to ask you this periodically throughout this run, because it seems like this is the chase, the year of Cody's chase to the ultimate climax at WrestleMania 40. So imagine, if you will, we're at Lincoln Financial Field. in this dream scenario, I've envisioned that we have front row seats. So let's let's suspend the disbelief.
Okay, we're suspending disbelief. Okay.
And so we're sitting there, front row, watching the main event, Cody and Roman Reigns for the championship. Cody goes for the crossroads, hits it a second time, does the bionic elbow, goes in for the third time. Roman shoves off, and Cody, I don't know, maybe Paul Heyman's standing up on the apron. Cody bumps into Paul Heyman, throwing him off. Roman spears him, pin. 1, you think he's going to kick out. 2, he's got to kick out. 3.
If they did that again, that would just be. See, that's where I was kind of hoping with all this actor strike that's going on right now.
Yeah.
Part of me was kind of hoping that on Saturday, Jay would win Tribal Combat with an assistance of The Rock.
That would have been something. I think that would have been really cool.
Because that would have thrown everyone off. The Rock's got time now. We've got an actor strike, and we could have then that way Cody's chase would have been more relevant, would have been against somebody else this time too. And then you could have had your Rock against Roman match at WrestleMania. You could have built up for that.
And Jay versus Cody.
Exactly. We could have had different.
And you could build Jey Uso into that monster over the next few months.
Right. So I was kind of hoping for that, but then again.
Well, you had to know. Like, they spent 3 years building Roman Reigns. You didn't build him for 3 years to have him lose at a lackluster SummerSlam.
But that would have made
it a bigger deal, yes.
It would have made that from a lackluster SummerSlam to a, oh my God, we can't stop talking about this SummerSlam.
Yeah, and you know what? It would have left us again with that idea of you can't not watch.
Right.
No matter how much you're like, oh man, this card's going to suck. Yeah, well, you thought it was going to suck? Yeah, we just had Roman lose the title at SummerSlam.
Right.
Hasn't lost it in 3 years.
Right. And see, that's one thing where if they want to build a pay-per-view name,
yeah,
throw the wild card out and have Roman lose the title between now and WrestleMania.
Look, I kind of thought, especially with the groundswell, and they kind of like built a story around the idea of what if Sami Zayn had beaten Roman Reigns. And I thought, going into Elimination Chamber, I remember thinking, no way. And I think the day before, my wife says to me, she's like, Eric, you're always talking about you like surprises, and you want to. She's like, what a surprise it would be if you thought this whole time they were building to Roman and Cody at WrestleMania, only to have Roman lose the title a month before.
Right.
And I looked at her, I said, damn it, I'm in.
We knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a letdown.
No.
Yeah.
And I just remember being so sure, like beyond sure, Cody was going to win the title.
And we were let down.
I mean, as much as it made me angry, I also think there had to be that conversation around WWE headquarters of what will get people talking about us the most.
Right.
Because, I know I sent out a rant of how much I hated it on Twitter.
Right.
A number of other people did the same thing. Bully Ray on Busted Open Radio posed the question, if you were booking it, how would you book it?
Right. All this talk about it kind of reminds me of the Dark Side of the Ring episode that just aired last week with the Bash at the Beach 2000. With how in a booking meeting everyone said Booker T, but Hogan
had the creative control, so he could say no.
And it kind of reminds me of a scenario like that where everyone's saying Cody, but Vince at the last minute. No, let's keep it on Roman. Or Triple H at the last minute.
Yeah, I could see Triple H like saying to all of them, "Remember Starrcade '84 and then '85."
Right.
We could create our own moment like that.
And if that happens, then we're really in trouble.
What? We get just a short title reign of Cody?
No. Dusty lost at 85. He didn't win the title in 85.
Oh, right. He won it at the Great American Bash. Yeah.
Great American Bash. It took a year and a half. That chase went from pretty much Starrcade 83 after Flair wins it.
Right.
They build up 84, Dusty Flair, rolls into 85. They finally give Dusty the short reign in 86. Flair is going to take it over. And then I think Starrcade 86 is going to usher the Magnum TA era in. But, of course,
it was supposed to, yeah, in the Magnum.
And then we had Nikita Koloff challenge.
Right.
So.
Did Flair retain against Nikita in 86?
Yeah, he did.
Okay, I thought so.
Flair, the first Starrcades, Flair beats Harley in 83, retains against Dusty 84-85, retains against Nikita in 86. Then when they went to pay-per-view in 87, he wanted to win the title, so that's when they put it on Ron Garvin in September.
Oh, right, yeah.
And Flair wins it in 87, and then 88 was against Luger.
Right.
And then 89, we don't talk about Starrcade 89.
No, that never happened.
No. That was horrible.
Yeah.
All right, now I'm going to have to watch it tonight. I don't even remember what happened.
It was Future Shock.
Oh, God. It
was instead of your biggest event of the year.
Oh, wasn't it the Nightwalkers thing?
No, that was Skywalkers. That was
yeah.
That was the scaffold match.
Yeah.
89, instead of highlighting everybody on the card because it's your biggest show, they did round robin tournaments that year.
Oh.
And it was the singles was Flair, Sting, Luger, Muta. And then for the tag teams, it was Road Warriors, Doom, Steiners, Samoan, SWAT team.
Oh, that's brutal.
And the thing is, when you do a show like that, you're going to make one of your top 4 or 5 teams or superstars look horrible because someone's got to lose every match.
Right.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
See, that was always my problem with the Bound for Glory series. Even though I loved that in TNA, but it was like, okay, you got to book somebody to basically eat all the pins.
Right. Exactly.
Because otherwise, you're just gonna have a log jam.
And that's the one thing I don't like about the G1, but they make it successful every year. And at least with the G1, they never have someone eat all the pins because it's quite a few matches usually. So
sure,
like the max point you get was 14. Sonata got 14. There were a couple people with like 4 in his block, but then you look at block D that had Ospreay and Naito coming out of it with 10 points each. There was 10s, 8s, 6s. It was more consistent.
And that makes for a real interesting final night. And
right, yeah. And now they're doing an 8-man at the end where they've done 4 in the end. And
I was always partial to the 4. I just always thought that made it special, making it to that. Now it's like you got to do all that work just to get into the tournament, and then it's you got to survive the tournament.
Exactly.
But the G1 might be. It's the greatest tournament because nobody really does many tournaments anymore.
Right.
The Owen Hart is nice, but it can't compare to the G1.
It really can't. And the thing that got me about the Owen Hart this year, going on another rant, If you didn't watch Collision, you didn't see any of the men's Owen Hart.
Yeah.
It was all on Collision because they wanted Punk featured during it. So,
I'm so glad he lost in the end.
yeah, I think it made, and I think they needed that launching pad for Ricky Starks to try to make him into one of the top heels, even though people are fighting him. So,
Yeah, and it kind of makes me wonder, especially with MJF moving into more the in-betweener role, are we set to maybe have more? Because I feel like there's more meat on the bones for a Ricky Starks MJF rivalry, especially now in the reverse role with Rick Starks as the heel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know if we're going to get that just yet. So, I don't know.
Well, hopefully someday that can be down the line somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we need to really have a full-blown run of those two.
All right, before we get out of here, any update on the scorings from SummerSlam? How did we do?
We did pretty well. I think you came out with a couple more points than me because you picked Seth, I picked Finn.
Okay.
And then you had Shayna where I took Ronda to be different. So it is a – wait, did I pick up one on you somewhere?
Did you pick Bianca, but then the cash in, or
We both picked Asuka and then the
Okay.
cash in. So we got points on that. We both picked Roman, Gunther, LA Knight. Yep. So you picked up 3 points on me.
Woohoo!
So it is 66-62.
Okay. Well, I hope it stays close because I would love to see it come down to like WrestleMania. WrestleMania's got to be the night everything resets, and that's when we reset the.
That has to be. I
Yeah.
mean, and that week might be a lot to predict.
Oh man, we might have to separate it and do a couple shows that week.
Yeah, because I don't know if I'm going to make Supercard of Honor.
Yeah, it's funny because right now, obviously a few months, well, last year when they announced that WrestleMania was coming to Philly, I was immediately saying both nights of WrestleMania, going to NXT, going to Supercard,
Right.
going to Raw on Monday. Now that I'm seeing how much everything's going to cost and what my money's actually like, I'm like, well, I mean, I could just go to both WrestleMania nights and that could be it. That could be good.
Yeah, I think actually I will be at the Friday night before. I'll probably, because Icons is going to be that weekend too.
Okay.
Battleground is doing Friday night a tribute to the Extreme.
Oh.
2. So that is where I will probably be that night. And
where's that at?
At the 2300 Arena.
Oh, okay. I'd be in for that. That'd be fun.
And I believe the one match announced already for it is Tajiri against Super Crazy.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
I remember that rivalry. God, what was that? 98 or 99? That rivalry tore up the whole summer.
So that's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, I'll definitely be in for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe we don't do Supercard. Maybe we go because that'll that'll be cheaper than Supercard, and I don't know how far. Like, what is Trenton? Like, it's right across the bridge, but
yeah, it's about 40 minutes from me.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, it is Friday, April 5th, Tajiri against Super Crazy.
Okay.
So at Battleground.
So that's more stuff for everybody to
digest.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot to go into that weekend.
That there is.
Because I'm going to have to find one day, sometime, where I can get over to the Fan Fest.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I might be a little busy that weekend. Yeah.
Basically, I'll see my wife in passing that weekend.
Pretty much. Yes.
All right. I think that's enough out of us for tonight.
I think so.
Yeah. We'll be back here next week. I feel like I really powered through, gave a good episode despite the 3.5 hours of sleep. Man, it was good to know that I could still do it because I used to do this on a regular, go
basis.
to work, half hungover, and
then go from there. And I think you froze.